Yeah, yeah, you're good. You're good. Oh, yeah. Yeah. Gotta fiddle around a little. Okay, cool. All right, man. Yeah, sounds good. Great. All right. Mhm. Yeah, man. Sweet. Hmm. Yeah. Nice. Hmm. Yeah. Yeah. Excellent. Beautiful. I'm gonna hop on Twitter here and do a quick shout for my folks. Let's see. Here we go. Oh, nice, nice. All right. Okay. Okay. All right. Yeah. Yeah. Okay. Perfect. Excellent. Awesome, man. Looking forward to it. Mhm. Nice. I like it. Hmm. Yeah. I bet, man. I bet. I bet. Hmm. What's up, man? Yeah, yeah. Good to be here.
Wait a minute. I think we have sound now. That sounds better. I think my mic was off. All right. Well, that's the first technical hitch that's out of the
There
way.
you go. There you
All
go. Get
right.
it out of the way. Get it out of
I
the way.
did the whole intro. I
Yeah.
did the whole intro with my mic off. And it
Mm.
was yeah, again, like I say, technical hitches, right? So all right, we're actually live.
Yeah, yeah.
I'm sure every podcast has been through that experience of realizing their mic was off, so I'm not gonna beat myself up too much about that. So welcome, Jason. Once again, welcome for real this time.
Hmm.
Um, Jason, I think the background that you have is so unique that I want to allow you to explain it as opposed to introducing you myself.
Hmm.
So why don't you go
Yeah.
ahead and tell us how you would describe yourself in terms of what you're doing these days?
Yeah, I am basically fully transitioned now from being a poker player to being a person who helps people, not just in poker, but in some other aspects as well, to learn how to really connect their whole experience between their what their brain is experiencing, between what their body is experiencing, so that they can achieve what people call presence, where you
Mm-hmm.
really feel like you're in the flow, in the zone, really engaged with life in a way that feels really good to you, so that you can bring the best out of yourself in each moment, and feel a really deep sense of purpose in doing
Sure.
so.
Excellent.
Yeah.
So, in terms of the goal that you have as a coach, as a would you call yourself an awareness coach, presence coach? What do you think fits best?
Yeah, I mean that's like the one of the main things that I end up working with at the
Mm-hmm.
beginning with people, but the overall goal is for in me specifically, higher levels of performance
Okay.
in whatever work people are in. So I call it mostly mindset and performance coaching would kind
Sure.
of be like the
Okay.
official label if I had to give it one. Yeah.
Right. So it's more so in the performance domain as opposed to the
Mhm.
wellness domain at this point.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean it has like rippling benefits out towards the wellness. I find that like most of the clients that I have will start out talking about their performance at the poker table, but by the end of our time working together, we're talking about like their relationships, the marriage, the communication skills, the level of integrity of who they are as a person. And so the performance, the promise of high performance gets people in the door,
Mm-hmm.
but quite often they end up staying for the personal benefits that come with it.
Sure. Yeah. And outside of poker players, what type of domains are you operating in? What type of people are you working with right now?
Yeah, also in performance fields. So golf
Okay.
has been
Cool.
one. Sports betters,
Wow.
DFS,
Mm-hmm.
um, trading. I've done sessions with day traders, and yeah, so all things that kind of require you to be fully there in order to get the best out of yourself and to make as much money as you can make, really.
Sure. Okay. And in terms of the the field as a whole, how did you start out in this domain? Because it's a very unique field to be in, and it doesn't
Yeah.
seem like there's not a college degree you can go do to get into this, right? So how did you start out?
Actually, you could study a field called somatic psychology,
Oh, okay.
and that could certainly get you in the door.
Okay,
Yeah, you
fair
could
enough.
study somatic psychology, which is the process of blending traditional psychology with a really high awareness of the body, right, and of
Interesting. Wow.
connecting your nervous system to your brain. And so,
Okay.
yeah, that's certainly been around. It's not like a widely studied field.
Mm-hmm.
You probably have to go to very special universities to kind of get that degree, but it does exist.
Okay.
And yeah, I actually came across this work probably like 8 years ago. I did actually want to go into the wellness coaching business because I had a long history of like struggling with food
Mm-hmm.
and my weight, and at one point I was like very very overweight, and found a way to lose that weight and keep it off for good, and wanted to go into business helping people to learn how to do that for themselves. And
Wow.
so
Okay.
in doing so, I enrolled in a program that kind of uh, coached me in terms of like getting as clear as I could get on how I wanted to do this and how I could become a really good facilitator of people to where they could tap into the things that I had kind of, I wouldn't say stumbled into, but
Mm-hmm.
unconsciously tapped into my own, to be able to like
I
make
see.
that change for myself. And so yeah, that's kind of where I picked up the skills, the concepts of what I'm putting now into my work, mostly with poker players, but
Mm-hmm.
people of all sorts. And yeah, so that was like a 2-year program that I enrolled in that was very intensive in really getting deep into my levels of emotional intelligence, right? Really learning what it is to be with your feelings, what it is to really get in touch with that, and also being able to learn how to connect my experience to my body as often as possible. And so those kind of make up the core principles of what I'm doing now. And I learned it back then, probably like 50-50, primarily to get really good at coaching so I could help people with the health stuff, but also just for
Mm-hmm.
myself because I wanted to be a happier person, and I knew there was more in me to live out my full potential. And so it was kind of for both those reasons.
That's great. Yeah, I think that it connects well to the next question I was going to ask, which
Mm.
is in terms of the process of getting into this field and the process of beginning to study these things with a view to helping people to become or to perform better. How much do you think that's helped you in terms of your own the fulfillment you get out of life and the your ability to enjoy yourself day to day?
Yeah, not even like I don't even recognize what my life was like before I kind of started going down this path, because
Mm-hmm.
I just always felt like there is something missing in my life
Right.
before, around happiness or fulfillment, or my ability to just relate to other people. I didn't have very close relationships. I
Mm-hmm.
didn't feel like I really loved myself in the way that I could, and so it just felt like kind of empty all the time. And so since then, 8-10 years later, um, all my relationships that are important to me are like really really solid. Married now to like a woman who I just love so much, and we have a great relationship that's essentially free of all blame and criticism. And it really, while I was still playing poker, it really redefined the way that I approached playing poker. It took me from a level of like stress and anxiety as a poker player, just like nonstop frustration, stress, anxiety, and kind of transformed my relationship there to one where I was just happy to be playing and really focused on the parts of the game that made me truly happy,
Mm-hmm.
and kept me in that game for much longer than I would have lasted otherwise. And now eventually boosted me up to where I am now, of getting to work with people in this way that I love very much. So it's
That's
amazing.
great. That's fantastic to hear, man. So on a out of curiosity here, on a day to day basis, um, how much how much time do you spend using the techniques that you're learning or that you have learned for yourself as opposed to passing them on to clients?
Mm. Well, the thing about it is that like when you train in these tools, in these ways of presencing yourself, it does feel a little clunky at first, and it's
Mm-hmm.
like a little bit odd to kind of like break whatever you're doing and go breathe or go move or whatever. But eventually it just kind of like wires into how you live. And so I don't these days spend a whole ton of time like actively
Mm-hmm.
telling myself, okay, do this and this will help my experience, because I've just been kind of doing it for a really long time. And so I know that I can reliably respond to whatever stressful thing happens or to whatever big emotions happen. I know how to like respond to them as they come up now,
Mm-hmm.
as needed. And so it's not like, I'm focusing on presencing like all day every day and that's how you get to be like very happy. It's more just like, yeah, I'm available to be really like with it whenever something comes up that really is going to require me to be with it. And one of the benefits of like going through all the training I went to is like we all coached each other for like hundreds of hours.
Wow.
And so like I've gotten to like receive many many coaching sessions, and I got to like practice giving many coaching sessions. And so for that time period we really were like immersing in these tools, and that helped a lot.
That's great. That's really. I think the process of coaching is, to me at least, in my experience as a poker coach and as a teacher in other areas, I find that there's nothing that solidifies information or principles in your mind so much
Yeah.
as having the opportunity to teach them. And I think that's, it's kind of a cliche at this point because people say it all the time, but it really is true that when you teach something, it becomes a part of your psychology in a much deeper way than just taking in that information. So I'm sure that experience, it sounds like it was really valuable.
Yeah, and I was actually talking about this with a client who was wanting to take his game to another level, and I was like, you got to start coaching even if
Mm-hmm.
you don't like charge very much money or whatever, because and I said because for him it was like you're going to hold yourself to a much higher level of accountability with all the things that
Mm-hmm.
when you're like telling it to somebody else who's like paying you something,
Right.
rather than when you're just with yourself and you let yourself slack all the time. And
Mm-hmm.
so just by like being in that position of authority, you end up holding yourself to a higher level of accountability, and in turn just like leveling up your own game almost automatically.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. And how much crossover is there between what you're doing and a more traditional type of, let's say, meditation or mindfulness
Hmm.
practice?
I think they go really, really well together. Like if we're talking about meditation, mindfulness practice, those are really great in terms of creating kind of like space, I guess you could
Mm-hmm.
call it. If there's like three planes of energy we live on, one would be called like space, which is just like connection to the infinite, to the universe, to possibilities. Energy would be like the level of enthusiasm you're carrying around a particular subject or an idea, your overall level of just, yeah, like how are we feeling around this. And then the mass level, which would be the third one, which is really connected to you taking action, like real world action, to like make things happen that
Mm-hmm.
you want to happen. So you kind of need to be planted in all three. And meditation type stuff really helps you to feel the space of what's possible. And kind of like the mindset and performance work, we kind of tap into all three. So it all just kind of like layers into whatever you've already got, and make sure that you're balanced so that you're not too far in kind of like any one direction. Like if somebody's just all action all the time, they lose
Mm-hmm.
sight of like why they're doing it and what's really possible. But if somebody's just meditating all day every day but not taking action to create stuff, then they're just kind of
Right.
like spacey, right? And so
Yeah. Yeah.
I find
Absolutely.
that having a foot in each camp works really well.
That's great. Do you coach anybody who's in like a more athletic kind of area? Um, Anybody who competes on a physical basis as opposed to mentally?
Yeah, I mean, I would say golf is more mental than physical, but
Right. Yeah.
yeah, that's like the closest I'm at right
Mm-hmm.
now. Yeah, but my background was in tennis, which was where the real interest in all this type of stuff started.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, I mean, hopefully someday someday an athlete will come to me saying, let's do this, and I'll be very excited to do so.
Cool. Okay. Well, I would be really interested to hear that how that turned out, because I think
Mm-hmm.
the the idea of maintaining presence while you're doing something that's very physically taxing,
Mm-hmm.
that seems like a, I think
Yeah,
most people find that a huge challenge. I think
yeah,
that the certainly when if I'm exercising or whatever, I find it hard to remind myself to kind of
mm-hmm.
stay to be there mentally, as opposed to just kind of physically going through the motions. So
Yeah.
that yeah, I'm sure there's a ton of growth potential for that kind of um, for that kind of work in an arena like that. That's
Mm-hmm.
yeah, that's an interesting future for you. But I think the evolution that we've gone through as a society in recent years, to where meditation is now really popular. Mindfulness is now becoming a more well acknowledged tool that people use to maintain wellness day to day. Do you feel like the type of work that you're doing is something that the world is kind of like just starting to figure out why it's useful, or is it do you feel like it's like a burgeoning kind of field?
Yeah, I think it's been kind of like burgeoning for a while,
Okay.
and as the world gets crazier and crazier, people get people get hungrier for this type of practice that
Mm-hmm.
allows you to feel, at least somewhat grounded and at least somewhat comfortable in your own skin, and at least capable of responding to what's happening, rather than always going out into the fear, going out into reactive brain. Um,
Yeah.
People don't want to live that way for too long. That you really can't live that way for too long. You end up just kind of like having breakdowns, whether mentally or physically, most likely both. And so yeah, as stress levels kind of increase, people just subconsciously are more drawn towards these types of things that are going to help bring them back, I think.
Yeah, absolutely. I think so, and I think
Yeah.
we'll probably see you know more and more these days, just with with a lot of younger generations now struggling to perhaps sort of understand the way that technology fits into their lives,
Yeah.
and the to try to kind of overcome the or to find a balance, I suppose, between the parts of our lives that we spend interacting with technology and the parts of our lives that we spend having a what some people would describe as like a more real experience, quote unquote. Um, I think that there's a lot of people out there who are probably in the process of trying to kind of figure that out for themselves. Figure out what relationship do I want to have with the world around me, what relationship do I want to have with
Mm-hmm.
technology versus
Yeah.
with my own body and with my own emotions and things like that. So certainly seems like what you're doing is extremely valuable, and can only become more so going forward. So must be exciting for you.
Yeah, it's great fun, and it's just really great to like see people really transform over time into the versions of themselves that they've always known were in there, and to know that like the pain, the anxiety, the frustration they were feeling, um, was not like just who they are, right? It doesn't have to
Mm-hmm.
be who you are, and so that's really been the best part for me.
Yeah, that's great. I'm glad to hear it's providing that kind of fulfillment.
Mm-hmm.
That's awesome. So with all that said, I think we've covered the basics. So I
Yeah.
think now would be a good time to kind of transition into what the main goal of this conversation was, which was for you to actually do a session and be able to
Yeah.
show our viewers what a session with you looks like.
Mm-hmm.
So that's going to be an interesting one. I think for the sake of everybody in chat, I'm not sure how many people we have right now because I hide the view account,
Mm-hmm.
but for anyone in chat, we're gonna do questions at the end. So we're gonna do questions probably at around, it's gonna be one, maybe a bit after that Pacific time. So if you guys could hold off until then, obviously feel free to comment and everything like that. But during the time that Jason and I are doing the session, I'm gonna be mostly focused, or I'm gonna be trying to focus as much as possible on that. So I probably won't have the opportunity to read chat for the next like 40 minutes or so. So if you guys have anything that you want to ask Jason, please do feel free. But we'll do that once the session's done. But yeah, until I guess until we're done, I'm now yours, Jason. So you want
All
to take
right.
over and
Cool.
get started?
Yeah. So, yeah, we haven't talked in a while, so I'm excited. And yeah, I'm curious, what is, something that, you've been thinking about, something that is either an issue, a problem, it could be a potential of like what you want to create.
Hmm.
Something where if you could snap your fingers and you were kind of there, what would make you happy in just thinking about that in this moment?
So uh, lately, a lot of my energy has been dedicated towards um, just thinking of ways that I can grow this stream. You know, to think
Mm,
of ways that I can use this to connect better with people and provide more value for people and you know deliver them something that is hopefully going to if they are struggling with their own mental health, hopefully going to give them
yeah.
tools that they can use to feel better and to help them to understand that they're not
Mm,
going through this alone. So yeah, right now a lot of my creative energy is going in that direction.
mm,
So growing the stream or
yeah.
you know continuing to dive into to this world of trying to help people with their mental health, I guess, is what's on my mind right
Nice. And what happens then?
now. Do you mean in terms of like a practical goal, or do you mean in terms of
Yeah.
my? Okay,
Yeah,
so
or in terms of your own personal development, either way, like whatever
okay,
comes to mind. Yeah.
so for me on a personal level, I think that um, the thing what I've realized in recent months through therapy is that the thing that has been largely lacking in my life in adulthood has been a real sense of a community around me. You know, so a sense of having built a strong community that's supportive and that is I guess more dependable over time, so to speak, because I've been through a lot of experiences where I've moved around from country to country. I've
Mm,
jumped from one profession or one field of work to another,
mm,
and I've continually found that I meet a lot of people and don't sort of retain them in my life, you know.
mm,
And I think that what I would love long term is to reach a place where, alongside having built my stream or built my what I'm doing to a level where I'm helping a lot of people, um, I would love to have built a community for myself that really feels like one that's going to stick with me and feels like one that can kind of give me some aspect of that that's been perhaps
mm,
missing for a large
mm,
portion of my adult life.
yeah. And I'm curious how you kind of picture, or maybe you're not sure exactly, but kind of what thoughts you've been having around how this fits in with your current professional life of poker player, poker coach.
Yeah.
Yeah, tell me.
The tricky part of that is that it's a transition, you know,
Mm,
and my current professional life does provide a certain sense of community, but I think um, it's a very it's kind of disconnected in that
mm,
I I find that there's a sense of when you're doing something that is more competitive than it is collaborative
mm,
as a poker player. You know, it's you're much more likely to sit down and be competing with somebody to try to take their money than you are to be sitting down to build something collaboratively. I think that that competitive aspect is something that it fits with my personality to a degree, but I think that as a whole, um, the parts of my current role as a poker player and a coach that I have enjoyed the most over the years, I can now look back and recognize that the collaborative parts are the parts
mm,
that are the most fulfilling to me. You know, they are the most they're the parts that I have gotten the most um, enjoyment and the most
mm,
I don't know what the word would be, but they're the parts that I feel the most connected to in terms of what I'm going to take
mm,
with me and what I'm going to remember, you know,
mm,
years down the line.
yeah.
And so that um, I certainly don't intend to drop my current
Yeah.
career anytime soon, but
Yeah.
I do feel that over time the collaborative aspect has become more and more important to me, and
Hmm.
um, the I suppose the goals I have in terms of the transition is I want to make sure that whatever I'm doing in whatever field, I'm kind of um, keeping a focus on collaborating with people, because that resonates with me as a person, and that I like to. I don't necessarily like to be in a zero sum environment. I guess I don't.
Yeah, yeah,
I think like a positive sum environment where everybody wins.
yeah.
That feels more rewarding to me on a deep level, and the zero sum aspect of competing with somebody, it's not that I am averse to that. It's just that there's it doesn't get me beyond a certain point in terms of how satisfied I feel about myself as a person
Yeah,
in light of that.
yeah, yeah. Um, yeah, so I'm hearing that the collaboration is what lights you up, not the like competitive
Sure.
fire. Right,
Mm-hmm.
right. Okay.
Right.
And I'm hearing that like you're open to like what your money making endeavors are going to look like in the future, whether it is continuing in the poker world, moving into a different world, possibly related to mental health and
Mm-hmm.
or maybe streaming or whatever is happening.
Sure.
But regardless of whatever you end up doing, you want to hold on and create a sense of collaboration, of togetherness, of like win-win,
Mm-hmm.
of yeah, positivity,
Yeah, I think
in the
so.
way that like you haven't felt before.
Yeah.
Cool, cool. And what's your level of like overall willingness to have this happen? Is there any resistance? Is there any? Does it just feel easy?
I don't think it feels more, it feels easier than a lot of the stuff that I've done in my professional life to date. Like
Hmm.
I think that if I if I compare my level of the level of resistance I feel when I'm doing stuff that, let's say, all the stuff that I'm doing to build the stream, like setting up these interviews, or
Yeah.
recording a YouTube video, or whatever else I'm doing to try to boost me along this path of being able to help people in this way. Um, the resistance that I feel there is much lower than the resistance I felt when I was getting into poker, for example. So
Okay.
when I was getting into poker, I didn't have a resistance to the idea of sitting down to play poker, but
Right.
all the stuff that you kind of need to do to get good at poker, like
Mhm.
the studying, the preparing in a way where you can try to perform at your best, all of those things, that stuff was a lot harder. It wasn't very easy for me to just like dive right in, and do some of that stuff without a certain degree of resistance. There was, I think, for a long part in the early stages of my poker career, there was a part of me that kind of wanted to be able to not really have to focus too much while playing. I was like playing online and not really being particularly present, not really focusing a lot, um, and just kind of hoping it would go well anyway. Which
Yeah.
of course it didn't. But
Yeah.
I'm feeling that with this new sort of stuff that I'm doing, with the new sort of domain that I'm diving into, I'm I I don't I feel much more of a sense of I'm moving towards something that
Mm.
feels very rewarding and fulfilling, as opposed to at different times in the past I've either felt like I'm moving away from something I didn't want, or moving in a way where I was kind of like stumbling around, as opposed to moving with purpose, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
so it certainly feels, it doesn't feel like there's a ton of resistance, but there are certain things, there are specific things where I can feel just a little bit of like hesitation or nervousness from myself,
Yeah.
but it
Yeah.
it doesn't seem like it's. I guess what it is I'm very aware that there's certain things where I'm going to have to push through a little bit of hesitation,
Mm.
but in this case, pushing through the hesitation feels very worthwhile, as opposed to at times in the past where I've looked at something that I was hesitant about and I've just gone, it's not that important. I'm gonna
Yeah.
kind of shy away from it.
Okay. Yeah. What and where in general, like what areas of it are the hesitations
Okay.
kind of centered around?
I think a lot of it the is putting parts of my life out there publicly that I haven't done before. You know,
Yeah.
a lot of it is, sharing stuff about my life that is going to influence the way people see me. And I've always been kind of I mean, maybe it's just because I'm British and we tend to be like that, but I've been very self-conscious most of my adult life and tend to try to, I don't know, be aware of how people perceive me, I suppose. And there's a definite kind of a bit of a barrier that I had to push through when it came to first beginning to share aspects of myself publicly that I hadn't done before. But at the same time, that never felt that difficult because I really did believe it was something that was very worthwhile and that was benefiting people, you know. So I think a lot of it now, having gotten over that initial kind of resistance, a lot of it now is thinking about the people that have been in my life for a bit of a longer time, and there's maybe a little bit of a sense of fear of what might change in terms of how they interact with me, or how they might respond to me suddenly having this, like, what feels like kind of a left turn, you know, in my career or in my life in terms of how I'm presenting myself to people now, you know. So I think there's certainly an element of hesitation there, I guess.
Yeah, great. And has there actually been a change in the quality of your interactions with the people who have known you longest, or is that just kind of like an anticipation of possible?
I don't think there's been any change. It's funny because the people that I think of in my mind when I think about this, there's really been, it's not even that there's been a change, it's that I haven't really interacted with them a lot recently, you know. So it's like I don't even have much to judge on, you know. It's sort of people that I knew, people that I've known for a long time that, you know, maybe I haven't spoken to lately because they live halfway across the world from me now, or, you know, or something like that. So it's there certainly isn't, it's not that I'm having experiences day to day where people are like, dude, what are you doing? Like, why are you doing all this different stuff now? You know, like I'm certainly not having that. So it's definitely something that lives in my brain more than in my experience.
Yeah, it's funny how that works out, where we think this thing's going to happen, but it never actually happens. And it's also a thing where, I mean, you're growing, right? You're growing into a new version of yourself. I see it. And you're growing into like a truly like authentic and transparent version of yourself. That's kind of like how I experience seeing how you've been, you know, interacting out in the Twitter world. And so that's probably like new for you, right? Obviously it is. It is new for you. But also like the enlivening feeling that you get from it, you know, once you get past the layer of fear, or whatever that lays on top of it, when you keep shedding those layers and you become more and more of just like, this is who I am and this is my experience, like that satisfies a deep down feeling that like nothing else could ever really do.
Definitely. I certainly feel that. And I certainly feel there's a kind of like, I think what I've said to a couple people so far in terms of the way that the people respond to you when you're just kind of doing your normal career, like as a poker player. For me, it was, you know, I had achieved a certain level of success within poker to the point where I had a limited kind of platform on Twitter or whatever, and I reached a point where you know, it wasn't like I had built a certain amount of platform, but it wasn't like people were reaching out to me every day to tell me how great I was at poker, right? But now with what I'm doing lately, I can, you know, I could show a list of the messages I get from people saying, I really appreciate what you're doing, or, you know, I'm really grateful for what you're doing, or like people who reach out in different ways, offering to help in certain ways. And it is absolute night and day in terms of the feedback you get from the world when you're doing something that is just your career and you're benefiting from it, versus when you're doing something that is outward focused and when you're doing something that is designed to benefit other people. And I think this kind of feeling of appreciation, it's pretty addictive. Honestly,
Yeah,
it's hard to give up,
yeah,
and I don't think I want to stop anytime soon.
yeah, yeah,
That's for sure.
yeah. My sense is that there's a like we're past the point of no return for you in terms of like going back to the more packaged version of you that like wants to be seen a certain way
Yeah, I
and
think
has
so.
interactions in a certain way, because there's once you kind of let the genie out of the bottle of
Hmm.
like this is just who I am, take it or leave it.
Hmm.
The you really can't replace the feeling that that generates inside you, the energy that we spend over our lifetimes, trying to manage what people think about us,
Right.
trying to present ourselves in a certain way. When that is gone, it's just a completely different experience.
It
It's
is.
like
Yeah.
you can breathe
Hmm.
for the first time, right? And so, speaking of that, how is your breathing? How has it been since we last spoke many moons
I
ago?
think it's been okay. I certainly, um, for quite a while, I was doing a lot of breath work. I was doing like the Wim Hof method and
Mm-hmm.
things like that on a regular basis. But what I found with that was I guess I was developing kind of a resistance to it because it felt a little bit uncomfortable. Like it was sort of
Yeah.
it was I'm not sure exactly what it was about it that I was resisting, but I think what also happened is at the beginning of the year when I first started on the medication that I'm currently
Mm.
taking, because my anxiety was reduced a lot by that. The main benefit of me having done the Wim Hof method previously, which was it reduced my anxiety a lot.
Mm.
Uh, it wasn't really having that benefit anymore because my anxiety was already low. So
Mm.
I kind of stopped doing it, and
Okay.
I'm still meditating a lot. I still meditate
Yeah.
every day. I still
Nice.
I still try to exercise and everything, and I still try um, to maintain a focus on my breathing as
Mm.
much as I can. But I think that actually one interesting thing I've noticed over the last couple of days is I've been feeling a little like just literally just the last couple of days, like I've been feeling a little less, like a little more short of breath than I
Mm.
previously was, and I can't tell whether some part of that is just some
Mm.
background level of anxiety over something,
Yeah. Yeah.
um, or if I am just out of shape lately,
Yeah.
or if I'm getting COVID or something.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
so I'm not sure where that's coming from, but
Yeah.
I think that I think that my relationship to my breathing is probably okay, but could
Okay.
be better.
Cool. So yeah, let's just drop in here together for a minute.
Okay,
I'll keep talking.
sure.
But yeah, so for you, kind of see if you can get into a space where you have no problems breathing in and out through your nose.
No.
Cool. And does it feel comfortable to breathe in and out through your nose in intervals of like 5 to 6 seconds in, 5 to 6 seconds out, or does it
Yeah,
feel like
that
it's too
feels
much?
that feels relatively comfortable. Yeah, I've done
Cool.
a decent number of breathing exercises
Yeah.
that
Oh
with
yeah,
like
yeah. I know you've done
timed
yoga. Yeah,
exercises.
yeah.
Right.
Cool.
Yeah.
So I'll be saying some things and see
Okay.
if you can like get into some flow here for about a minute or so.
Okay.
Um, Breathing in and out through the nose, 5 to 6 seconds in, and then at the very crest of maximum in, hitting into the out breath, right? So we're kind of trying to sync it up to a very like smooth flow of breath, not like holding it at the top, right? Some people take a big breath and then it kind of stops, or they exhale and it kind of stops. But what we're looking for is, top of the inhale into the beginning of the exhale, bottom of the exhale into the beginning of the inhale. And one thing I'll say about Wim Hof is that, um, almost it's funny, like almost all of my clients when I first start working with them, they're doing it. So yeah, it's the, Wim Hof cold showers, whatever, and uh, it's exhale through the mouth, right? And so what that does is it actually, um, releases a small amount of adrenaline when you are exhaling through the mouth, because it speeds up the distillation of the air. And so, it's great for like waking you up in the morning, right? Because like you're a little sluggish and you want to get like the flow, and it does use a little bit of adrenaline, I believe, to make that happen. The problem with that is that it will, eventually wear off, and so you kind of like need to hit it again and again and again to keep feeling good, right? Because it gives you that initial boost, but then levels off. I don't know if you've experienced that.
Mm-hmm.
But if you are breathing in and out through your nose, kind of modulating it in this way, you will one, give yourself in your brain the amount of oxygen that it really needs, like in a consistent, smooth dispersion. And two, you will also keep your body from releasing adrenaline into your system and create a sense that alertness you're looking for can be created and sustained throughout your day in a way that's more like aliveness than alertness, right? So alertness is like we're here, what's going on, and how can I like fix what's happening, versus aliveness is more of just this like calm, relaxed, but ready to respond if needed. But otherwise, I'm just kind of chilling, hanging out, feeling good, right? So yeah, I've probably been talking for a couple minutes now, and you've been breathing in this way. How do you feel?
Good. I definitely feel like maybe it's just because you know, we're talking back and forth, but my breathing prior to that, I maybe had lost consciousness of it to a degree, and
Mm-hmm.
it was maybe a bit uneven just because
Mm.
you talk for a while and you breathe a little faster, and then you stop talking and you kind of slow down, and
Yeah.
it definitely felt very like I think that rhythm in and out through my nose
Mm.
felt more natural to me than um, a lot of the in through the nose, out through the mouth kind of meditation type breathing
Yeah.
exercises that I've done in the past. I think it feels
Yeah.
more natural in and out through the nose for me.
Yeah. Yeah. Through the nose really just creates a calm centeredness, I find. And almost everybody tells me the same thing. I don't think anybody's ever told me anything different. And yeah, so highly recommend that as like the way of breathing throughout the day. And yeah, the more you can slow it down, the more you can really like stay in that space for a long period of time. But what we're going to do now is get kind of into an experiential exercise. What I really want to do is help you tap in and get really connected even more than you already are to this feeling that you get when you're generating like collaboration and win-wins and just this like feeling of like togetherness with people out in the world.
Mm-hmm.
And so yeah, I'll have you do this eyes closed is probably best,
Okay.
right? And yeah, I'll just have you yeah, take some breaths, keep breathing throughout this exercise as I'm kind of like prompting you through it. And what we're going to do is I just want you to like start painting a picture in your mind of what it really looks like. Maybe you're out somewhere in a future that you really love, right? That feels really good to you, and where you are creating collaboration in some way, right? And I want you to imagine kind of like where you are. You might be like in literally the exact same place you're in right now, but also imagine like what you're doing in that moment, who you are with in that moment, what you all are talking about, and a general sense of what you're up to, right? And I want you to just paint in as many like tiny details as you can, sensory ones. So, if you are feeling like the air kind of like around your skin, or if you are smelling some specific smells, or if you can feel like your chair or your desk or your socks or whatever, um, really listening to the tone of voices of people who you are interacting with, in this moment, and really just paint every sense as much as you can and really live in it. So I'm just gonna like shut up for a second and let you live in it for about a minute. And if it feels good to like move your body in some way, right, while you're there, whatever goes. And if you notice any emotions arising, the the core feelings of happiness, sadness, fear, anger, sexual feelings, those are the five core emotions. If you notice any of those bubbling up, just let yourself feel those too. Really add that to the painting of what you're experiencing. Really feel every touch, smell every smell, hear every sound as vivid as possible. Keep breathing. And go a couple more breaths. And when you're ready, you can kind of like come in for a landing, open your eyes, and we'll kind of like see what's going on.
All right. Oof.
Yeah, cool.
It,
Yeah,
it
let your
felt,
body shake it
yeah,
out.
I gotta
Right?
say,
Shake it
it
out.
felt really weird to be sitting here on camera with my eyes closed,
Yeah, for sure,
um,
for sure.
just silently.
Yeah,
So
yeah, yeah,
I trust that I didn't lose all my viewers during that
yeah.
1 minute. I hope. We'll see.
This is riveting stuff here. Yeah, so tell me about your experience.
Okay, so what I was imagining was something very similar to some experiences I had a few years ago in the UK, where I went to, or I traveled to like conventions, like big comic book conventions, or just like these big events full of people who are really passionate about whatever thing is going on. So um, large crowds of people, but um, also very similar to some events I went to when I was volunteering, where there's kind of a vibe that a lot of people there know each other, and sometimes you're seeing people that you know very well, but you haven't seen them for a long time. And so I was kind of picturing myself being able to attend those events and to have a presence there where I could be almost part of a very very large crowd of people, that I really got the sense that I was in a place where I was surrounded by people who were doing the same kind of thing as me, doing people who were working for the same things as me. I was sort of imagining myself like talking with people, greeting people, saying hello, um, meeting new people, just kind of just interacting, I guess, in a lot of different ways with people, and also experiencing the that kind of environment where you have a lot of activity all around you. There's a lot of like background noise of different things going on. You can see maybe there's there's different displays up of things people have created, and maybe you're being approached by people who are trying to I don't know. Sometimes at those events, it's like people trying to sell you stuff, but sometimes it's literally just like people giving you stuff. People giving you free stuff and things like that. So just a general sense of all different kinds of interaction going on around me, and at the same time, this feeling of being accepted, being among people that are like me and have the same, or are working towards the same end goals as me. And yeah, also I guess just in a very very kind of vibrant environment, I suppose.
Nice. And what kind of emotions, feelings do that stir up inside you?
A lot of it was a kind of a sort of a happiness or a joy, similar to when you when you do see somebody you haven't seen for a long time. Like when you that kind of feeling of like, I haven't seen you in 5 years, and you come up to someone and you give them a hug or whatever, like that sort of feeling of familiarity. That was definitely, I think, the overriding one. But also just maybe a bit of a sense of sort of looking around and seeing all of this larger than life kind of stuff around me, and feeling, maybe, I'm not sure what the word is, almost like a sense of wonder, really, about the all the people around, and all the big colorful stuff going on, and things like that.
Yeah, beautiful. So, you know, those emotions, those feelings, they originate in the body, right? So
Hmm.
you have a sense of like what your body kind of felt like while you were experiencing that. Did you feel like some sensations? What'd you feel?
Yeah, I noticed that I didn't feel that tightness in my chest that I was talking about,
Hmm.
which is nice.
Okay. Yeah.
I I felt like I could feel it in my stomach kind of area, and a lot of the time that's where I feel a lot of my anxiety symptoms when I get it. Like
Yeah.
I feel like this sort of gnawing pit of your stomach kind of feeling.
Yeah.
Um, but instead, this time it was very much like a just kind of a warmth, I guess.
Hmm.
And I felt like, well, no, I guess sometimes like I'll feel like if I'm feeling negative, or if I'm feeling in some kind of state where I'm I don't know, I'm not feeling great. I'll feel like a lot of shoulder and neck tension kind of thing,
Hmm.
but I felt quite relaxed, I guess,
Okay.
overall.
Yeah.
So I
Nice.
suppose just a sense of relaxation and that kind of warm feeling, I suppose as
Hmm.
well.
Nice. Nice. You felt kind of warm here and relaxed, kind of like all over.
Yeah.
It's great. Great. And so connecting to this feeling on a regular basis is a really big deal.
Mm-hmm.
There's been studies that show that like what you are experiencing in terms of like your imagination when you imagine things and you experience things through your nervous system can't tell the difference between that reality and the actual reality that you're occupying. So the more that you can create this feeling of relaxed warmth
Mm-hmm.
inside you, the more you're just naturally going to start to gravitate towards doing the things, pushing through the resistance towards actually
Mm-hmm.
making that happen. So you kind of just become the person that creates that feeling because your body likes it, your nervous system likes it, and it's like, oh, I want more. So we'll just do it again,
Right.
do it again,
Mm-hmm.
and we'll push towards that. So one thing that might come in handy for you is just spending like a minute or two, maybe like after you've finished your meditation, of putting this type of visualization practice for a couple minutes into
Yeah.
like the back end of your meditation when you've kind of like cleared out the gunk and
Mm-hmm.
now you're like fully available to kind of like start generating this state because the meditation is great but people think it ends at meditation like I'm meditated, I'm done, but
Mm-hmm.
really meditation is a primer that clears the debris for you to now start doing what feels good, right?
Mm-hmm.
So there's really no better time to do a visualization exercise like this than like right after you've finished clearing out, you know, the last 12 hours of your life experience or whatever.
Yeah.
And so this should help you really get connected to the feeling you're looking to generate, right? Because there's a world of like content of like I want this and I want that, but really what we're saying is we want to feel like this and we want to feel like that. You want to
Right.
feel collaboration, you want to feel connectedness. It's not necessarily you want to like be a successful streamer or like the most successful coach or professional or whatever. It's you want to feel this. So you want to feel that. Well, you can feel it now just by like starting to do a practice that cultivates that feeling, and then so you grow your ability, you grow your capacity to feel that feeling more and more, and each day you start to just naturally start to take steps to doing things that will put you there, if that makes sense.
Absolutely. Yeah. I mean, it certainly feels powerful. I've always found visualization something that helps me quite a bit in meditation. I think it could just be because I'm quite a visual person as a whole. But I think it's also partly because it gives me something to focus on more. I've noticed in recent weeks, and I was just talking about this with my therapist the other day actually, because he's like a trained mindfulness kind of specialist, I guess, as well as being a therapist. That I've been finding lately that my mind has been like jumping around a lot more during meditation, and
Yeah.
I
Hmm.
think that having some kind of visualization
Hmm.
helps me a lot to keep
Yeah.
me grounded, and I can certainly see myself
Great.
adding this to the end of my meditations because
Yeah.
it feels very powerful for sure.
Great. So that's kind of like an example of um, you know, energy and space, kind of like doing stuff in those areas.
Mm-hmm.
And so what I want to do is, I guess that's purely space. But what I'll do is let's put a foot into the other two kind of poles here,
Sure.
and let's given that you're starting, this is kind of new. I want to like help you kind of shape what you feel is like the overarching purpose um, for you that feels really good and that will kind of keep moving your energy in that direction if you can like stay connected to it. So
Mm-hmm.
I want to play with what is called a commitment statement.
Okay.
And a commitment is an agreement between you and the universe that kind of lines you up towards what you're really wanting to create. And I'll kind of like show you what the core components are, and then we'll kind of like play with making one for you that feels really, really good.
Sure.
And yeah, so what I want to do is tell you that the first part of a commitment always starts out as I commit to, right? I commit to. And so each time you say that or read that, you are reaffirming to yourself that like this is what I really, really want, followed by an active verb. So you don't want to fall into the trap of using a verb that's like avoiding or
Right.
fixing, or it's like
Mm-hmm.
you want it to be like an active verb that feels good, that feels um, you know collaborative, that feels like it's
Right.
working with you each time you see it. So really good active verbs might be words like generating, creating, right, inviting, stepping into, accelerating, right, these types of verbs that really like pop when you say them, where like you can feel yourself in motion as
Mm-hmm.
soon as you hear the word. And then yeah, from there, what you want, right? Whether it's a feeling or a tangible result, or yeah, whatever you want to create. So let's kind of start on the back end, and I'll ask you like, what is it like in this path you're headed on right now and that you're walking down?
Mm-hmm.
What is like the biggest thing that you feel like you want to create?
I think that the way I the way I conceptualized it to myself when I started was I wanted to create a community,
Mm,
so
mm,
um, a hub for people to connect with each
mm,
other. You know, whether that's my stream being a place that
yeah.
people come and hang out, or whether it's um, to enable people to feel closer to each other by seeing other people sharing their experiences with mental health and things like that.
Mm,
Whatever it is that whatever it is that I'm doing, if it's contributing to bringing people closer together and making them feel a greater sense of community,
mm,
that um, yeah, that's the word that jumped out to me at the beginning when I started this.
community. Great. And tell me, are there any like descriptors that really stand out for you, like close knit community or growing community, or yeah, what something to describe the community that feels.
I think close knit would be one. I
Mm-hmm.
think supportive would be another.
Mm, mm,
Trusting.
mm,
Um, I think that like-minded as well would
mm,
be would
mm-hmm.
be worthwhile.
Yeah.
So just all those, yeah, anything that kind of signifies this idea of people having uh, a very deep relationship in a sense where I guess it I guess it all does come back down to trusting, really. Like that
Mm,
that
mm,
word I think feels quite significant, but
okay.
um, yeah.
Yeah. So like the beginning version of it for you might look something like, I commit to creating trusting, close knit community in my
Hmm.
life, right? So yes, I'll have you kind of say that out loud. Then we'll kind of like play with it, tweak it around, and make it feel
Okay,
just right for you.
sure. I commit to creating a trusting, close knit community in my life.
And take a breath, see how you feel.
Okay. Do you want me to say it again, or
Yeah. Yeah. Tell me what you're experiencing
okay?
as you said it out loud. Yeah. How did
Okay.
that
So
feel? How did that land?
um, I think it felt pretty good. It didn't
Mm,
feel it didn't feel intimidating. Like I sort of
mm,
expected it
yeah.
might, I sort of expected
Yeah.
it might feel like I'm publicly
Yeah.
committing to something. So it's like,
Yeah. Yeah.
there's a sense of accountability now, right?
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
like, No, it felt pretty good. It felt very much like I I don't know if the exact wording like popped in a way that just instantly resonated. So
Yeah,
there might be
yeah,
something to change with the wording,
yeah. Oh yeah, there always is. Yeah.
but the sentiment certainly felt very very natural, and it didn't feel like it felt very authentic, like I was committing
Yeah.
to something that I really did believe in.
I get the sense that you're already kind of doing this. Would you agree?
I'm trying.
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
I think I don't feel uh, I don't feel daunted by doing
yeah.
this, and
Great,
that's
great.
like I think an important thing, because there's times in my life in the past when I've felt
Mm,
like, man, this is a scary challenge, you know.
mm, mm,
And it might just be because having been through the experience already of trying to get to the point of playing poker for a living, and
mm,
reaching that point, I
mm.
have enough confidence that if I do the right things consistently, it will pan out in a positive way, you know.
Yeah.
But uh, I think that I think that the things that feel daunting are certain individual things, um,
Hmm.
and certain, like there's an element of it that's more intimidated by the challenge of sticking with this long term,
Yeah.
and like recognizing that there's going to be parts where it gets hard and I'm going to have
Yeah.
to stick with it,
Yeah.
as opposed to the as opposed to like whether I actually think I can do this long term. Like I have
Mm.
no doubt that if I do this long enough and I keep doing the right things, it will pan out, because
Yeah.
that I just believe that's how the world works. But
Yeah.
in terms of my ability to overcome whatever obstacles
Mm.
might
Mm.
crop up in the meantime, that's the part where there's a slight element of self-doubt, you know.
Mm. Yeah.
So it's not so much that I
Cool.
doubt my commitment to what I'm doing, it's that I it's there's not like 100%, there's maybe like 80% self-trust in terms of following it through, you know.
Yeah. Yeah. Cool. Um, would you like this to feel easy, or do you want it to be like hard at certain points? Some people like it to feel hard at certain points.
I mean, I don't think I would mind if it felt easier, you know.
Okay.
I think
Yeah.
I think that the the feeling of it being difficult is something that creates resistance for me sometimes. So
Yeah.
if it felt easy, I would probably be a lot more likely to overcome a lot of hurdles, you know.
Cool. Yeah. Yeah. I'm an easy person, right? I only want things to feel easy now. I don't believe in the whole like the struggle is where the
Hmm.
sure I'll do it if it comes, and um, I'd rather things just be easy and feel nice and good all the time.
Yeah.
So yeah, and even before we were talking about this, in the verb category, I was thinking like, yeah, there's something that needs to be done, and to me it feels like it's not just create, right? It's create and sustain. So I'll throw this out to you, and you can try it on and see how it feels.
Sure.
I commit to creating and sustaining a thriving community, a thriving, trusting community that with ease, right? So something
Yeah.
like that.
Okay.
Yeah,
Um,
try that out.
Wait, can you say that again? I forget the
Yeah,
whole. Yeah.
yeah. I
I commit
commit
to.
to creating and sustaining a trusting community with ease.
Okay. I commit to creating and sustaining a trusting community with ease.
How does that feel?
It feels okay. I think the with ease part doesn't
Yeah,
it doesn't feel like there's a sense, part of me is skeptical about it. Like
yeah,
part of me is still like,
yeah,
I know it's going to be hard at times, but
yeah,
um the to say that and um to commit to it doesn't feel uncomfortable.
yeah, yeah. It's your intention, right? It's not
Hmm.
like an expectation of this is how it's always going. It's an intention. This is what I want to create.
Hmm.
In my ideal world, where I get to lay it out however I want. This is what I want to create.
Yeah.
So yeah, you can feel free to leave it on. You can take it out. Um, Otherwise, how does that commitment land with you? Does it feel like pretty good? Does it feel like it wants a little more attention on certain aspects of it?
I think it feels pretty good. I think that it's sort of hard to. I've always the thing that I've struggled with so far is finding a way to describe the type of community that I want to create. You know, so
Yeah. That,
to sum that up in less than a full sentence, for example, feels kind of tricky.
yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
because it taps into, you know, part of it is like creating a community where you know, we participate in helping to break down the stigma that is associated with mental health issues, and you know, being honest about certain things in a way where um, we're open with each other and things like that, you know. But there's no one word that sums that up accurately, you know. So
I was thinking of the word collaborative, right? Or,
yeah,
collaborative.
I think that
it kind of implies that it's trusting if you're truly genuinely collaborative.
I think it does. I think that's about as good a word as any. I think
because I was kind of stumbling on the word trusting myself, and probably a sense of me is like, oh, that's not quite the right word. Right? So let's try this one. I commit to creating and sustaining a collaborative community with ease.
Okay. I commit to creating and sustaining a collaborative community with ease. Okay, that felt pretty good, I think. Yeah,
that's pretty good.
I think that collaborative is a good word to sum up what I'm trying to achieve.
Yeah, it's good to have clarity. So you know, we'll take this one and run for now, and I invite you to, you know, write this down at some point after we hop off, and play with more of the descriptors of the community, right? So it might not be. I'm getting the sense it might not be completely finished yet of around like what the community is, and you get to like envision that, right? It ties into your visioning of your practice of visualizing, like what does it feel like, and the word will come as you're sitting there and really putting yourself in that space, you know, both with your imagination and with the feeling in your body. The words will come, and the more you tune into it. So we'll start with that though, because I want to tie this into mass world action.
Okay.
So we've got this commitment of, I commit to creating and sustaining a collaborative community with ease. And so what I want to do is make sure that you don't just make this commitment and then like you just go live your life and forget about it.
Yeah.
Right. So here is what I like to do with people is kind of like broken down into the very tiniest, smallest, we call it a measurable, pleasurable action step that would feel good when you've completed it, that would move you in the direction of creating and sustaining a collaborative community with ease. What's the first thing that kind of pops into your mind around like an action step that would feel good to you to take?
Do you mean physically feel good, or just something that after I've done it, I feel a sense of accomplishment?
Yeah, either.
Oh, okay. Well, a simple one would be I have another YouTube video to make for tomorrow, and I'm going to do that later today. And when that's done, I will feel pretty good about that, because it's an item off my to-do list, and it's also, you know, these videos are me sharing a part of my experience and hopefully helping people. So that feels good too.
Great. And by when do you want to have that completed? By when do you want to hold yourself accountable to take that step?
That will definitely be done by 7 p.m. tonight.
7 p.m. tonight. Great. So yeah, that's great, right? So a very tangible, measurable action step that you can connect to this commitment. So anytime you're feeling a little bit like off on the commitment, it's likely that you're just not clear about like what's the next smallest thing you can take. And I'll say that like the tendency out there with people that I see is for people to either go like too big or too vague. They might say something like, you know, I want to start working on my my solver game, or I want to start eating healthier, right? But those are like too vague, too big, right? So it would be like break it down into the very smallest, like one thing that you can do that's going to move you in that direction, like just the next step, right? So it's like it might be like enter the hand I played last night into PO and break it down for 15 minutes. That's like one small chunk. Or go to the grocery store and buy vegetables, right? And that's another small chunk, and not just like eating healthy. When I say I'm going to start eating healthier, that's like a big thing, and
it's a huge project.
I'm not going to be able to like connect to my commitment through that vague of an action, right? But when I say go to the grocery store and buy vegetables by 9 p.m. tonight, and I do it, now my nervous system is repatterning to say, oh yeah, I am really connected to my commitment, and I did it. And so yeah, commitment, you can say it out loud, feels good, or read it, feels good. Then what's the next action step, broken down into the smallest thing? Very important, by when, right? You don't want to just say like, oh, this is the next step, and then it'll happen whenever. You want to like, oh no, by tomorrow, or by tonight. Ideally by something in the near future, right? That, because we're trying to like link together a solid chain of actions that kind of convince you, that show you that you are reliable, that you can count on yourself to kind of move yourself in that direction. So that's kind of like the blueprint here. Yeah, visualize, then you know, connect to your commitment. Then you can always find a new action step and a by when, and then when you've completed it, the step that's very important is to really let yourself celebrate in some way. It could be as small as just like a pat on the back. It could be like, I'm gonna go eat some nice cheese or something. I don't know. But either way, like give yourself a moment to acknowledge that you have taken a step to move yourself towards what you're really, really, really wanting in your life. It's a big deal. It's not a small thing.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely. It sounds good.
Yeah. So yeah. So that's it. That's the session.
All right. Well, I appreciate it. That was actually really, really helpful.
Yeah,
it certainly, I think, felt good to connect to the reasons why I'm doing what I'm doing, and it was also kind of validating too, because it to see that thinking about the endpoint actually did give me, you know, a really positive feeling, and that it really did feel like something valuable and all of that. It's nice because it helps to further convince me that I'm on a positive track. You know, I'm on the right track. So yeah, it was really helpful. I appreciate it.
Yeah, when we're contracted, when we're so contracted, it's hard to break out of that feedback loop. It just keeps getting worse and worse and spiraling. That's why we say spiraling out of control, right? And so we just need something, anything to break that loop, and to just jar our consciousness back into like, oh no, like that's not my whole existence, right? It just felt that way, but that's not really like all there is to it, and I have other options.
Sure, absolutely. So with that said, I think we can probably take some questions from the chat now.
Let's do it.
Let's do it. Let me make sure that I can actually see them though. Because my streaming software is not being super collaborative right now. Okay, let me just move it to my main screen. That's probably easiest. All right, so looks like we don't have a ton of questions in chat so far. We don't have looks like we don't have too many people in here, but that's fine. Oh, we've got 8 people. That's nice. That's good.
Oh,
8
nice.
viewers. That's fine. 8 viewers is good. So guys, yeah, I mean, I'm happy with that, right? That's great. That's better than my average. I'm looking at what my average viewers are, and just any day I get more than my average, I'm happy, right? So,
hell yeah.
Thank you everybody who's in chat. Welcome Kel, welcome Final Table Boy, Huntsville, everybody. I appreciate you guys being with us. If you guys have any questions for Jason, Jason's very open to discussing stuff. So we have one. Final Table Boy said earlier on, I hear you, but this community can help each other get over the obstacles. Yeah, absolutely. That's part of what I want the community to be. You know, it's part of why I'm doing this. I want us to be a community that can support each other in these things. So I'm glad that you guys are with me for that. So Huntsville X asks, how long do you typically do visualization for? What do you think, Jason?
It doesn't really matter. Is kind of it. I mean, like I don't think that the duration matters that much, but what does matter is the intensity, how much vividness you can fill that picture in to what you're looking at, right? So if you only have like a very general, vague sense of where you are and what you're doing, then your connection to the feelings that it's going to bring up is not going to be that strong. But when you can get really in tune and really see the table that you're looking at and really like feel the sun, if you're outside, you can feel the sun on your skin and hear the voices of the people you're talking to and smell the air or smell whatever food if you're visualizing that, and really make it pop as much as possible, then you are going to have a real like deep wired in connection to your nervous system of like that feeling of like your nervous system really will believe that it is, real, and then your subconscious begins to go about making that more of a reality, that feeling. It may not look exactly like the way you're painting it in your mind, but that feeling is what you are starting to remove the resistance from. That feeling, what your subconscious is going to naturally gravitate towards. So it'll probably look a little different than what you're picturing, but the feeling will be there, and that's kind of what the most important part of it is.
Cool. Okay, sounds great.
Mm-hmm.
So Huntsville has another question. How
Yeah.
important is posture during this process? I have done some qigong breath work, I think, and posture was
Nice.
super important for the flow of qi.
Hmm. Um, if your body is kind of like slumped and contracted, then I imagine you probably won't have as like delightful of an experience if your body is like more comfortably upright, or even like laying on the ground is probably amazing for visualization. I've never done it. I'm usually just like in a comfy chair, but I'm not like sitting up trying to hold myself in a specific position. Just as long as you're relaxed and comfortable, not tensing your body would probably be like the most important thing. Like
Cool.
I think
Okay.
that if you are like actively engaging a lot of muscles to try and put your body in a certain place, that will probably keep you from being able to fully relax into the picture that you're creating. So
That
probably
makes
like
sense.
not a huge deal either way. But I do love qigong and tai chi. So keep doing that, man. Kudos.
Cool. I don't Tai Chi is something I've tried a little bit of Tai Chi. It's just like very
Yeah.
very basic stuff, but I've never done any
Yeah.
Qigong. Do you have any
Yeah.
recommendations in terms of how one might explore those domains?
I mean, if there's, I guess like in non-COVID times, the best thing to do would be like seek out teachers in your local area,
Okay.
who do that. And there's tons of people who probably teach it online, and it's hard to tell whose methods are going to be suited to you. You just gotta like try a bunch of stuff, but really you can't go wrong because all of the exercises and practices are designed to connect you to like a point of relaxation in your body, right? Like how can you be engaged and fully relaxed at the same time? That's basically the essence of
Hmm.
both of those practices, aside from the martial arts applications of them.
Interesting.
And so yeah, like how can you be fully relaxed and fully engaged? They actually have, when you hit a certain level of kung fu, they enter you into tai chi training because it's the same movements,
Ah,
but if you can master the movement going like super super slow with total relaxation in your body at every point, right? No tension. Then when you're doing it fast, you have even more power, even
right.
more force behind your kicks and your punches.
Interesting.
And so yeah, they go together.
Awesome. All right.
Yeah.
Cool. So another one from the same one,
Mm.
Huntsville. So this is Bob. He's a software guy. So welcome, Bob.
Nice. Hey, Bob.
Um, you started with Matt's purpose. How do you handle sessions with people that don't know what their purpose is or what
Mm.
they want right now?
Yeah.
Interesting question.
Yeah. Yeah. That's the fun part about what I do is that I never have any idea what we're going to talk about or what I'm going to lead people through. And so it's not like the next person I talk to, I'm gonna be like, let's do visualization and then make commitments and then come with action steps. So
Hmm.
it's it's kind of a thing where when the more I am connected to myself and more connected to my breath, connected to my body, the more I can just sense what is really wanting to happen here in this interaction between the two of us, right? So it's kind of like the answer just kind of like appears in front of me. Oh, let's do this exercise, or let's spend more time focusing on breathing today, or more time focusing on moving the body in ways, or focus more on whatever. And so like the answer is just like I don't know, but it will come. And the more that, if somebody's like really disconnected from their purpose, or that's not a big deal. we can get to that. But if somebody's really disconnected to their ability to presence, ability to breathe and be here and engaged, then that's what needs our attention most, right? And then once we kind of settle into a rhythm there, we can talk about more of the content things around. Like purpose really is like kind of somewhat content oriented. Presence though is context of like how do you get there, and so usually we can just start by connecting somebody to their body more, get into a place of flow, and the purpose will come the more that you kind of inhabit that state.
Cool. Sounds good.
Mm-hmm.
All right, guys. Anybody got anything else? We still got some time here. I told Jason 90 minutes, so we still have some time. You guys have got a little bit extra time if you wanna ask anything more. I suppose one thing that that comes to mind for me actually is just this idea that Huntsville says thanks so much. So
Yeah, for sure.
he appreciates that. So one thing that's come to mind for me is I think that there's an interesting thing that's going on this year, particularly with everybody having adapted to very new circumstances with COVID and with everything that's happened in all of our lives. And I think that with a lot of us spending time doing different things to what we were doing before this year, for a lot of us, 2020 looks very, very different to 2019. What advice might you have for someone who finds themselves doing things that are maybe unfamiliar or things that they aren't accustomed to maybe help retain a sense of presence even despite the uncertainty of a certain kind of experience? Do you see what I'm getting at?
Yeah, you need to have like a home base. So when you're out in the unknown, which essentially we all are, out in the unknown together right now, the more that you can stay current with the emotions that are arising, the better off you're going to be. So when you're out in the unknown and there's so much new stuff happening, there are going to be so many different emotions that you're not used to feeling at, whether it's at a higher frequency or at a greater level of intensity, right? And they're just going to come in waves. Emotions don't care if you have like 2 more tasks you need to complete before you can like finish your day, right? They come when they come, and there's no managing them. There's no controlling when they come. And when you put the emotions aside and try and say like, not now, I got to do this and we'll deal with it later, it really builds up the anxiety, the stress. It makes it a lot worse, right? So if we have a wave of fear, and let's say a wave of anxiety that manifests as like fear and sadness, right? Kind of like a blend of the two. And I'm doing something where I'm like, I just don't want to deal with, I can't do this right now. What's going to happen is that the emotions aren't going anywhere. They're not going to be like, all right, cool. We're going to completely vacate the premises and then we'll come back in 2 hours when you're ready. They're still there, but now they're like adding to the weight of all of the stuff you were already experiencing first. And now you're less capable of really like engaging with what you're doing. Your quality of work is going to suffer. Your ability to communicate clearly, express what you need is going to suffer. And you're just going to contract into this experience of like unfelt feelings, right? So the more that you are out there in the unknown, the more you need to be ready and able to feel your feelings and really give your full attention to them the minute you notice that they are happening. And that's what's going to enliven you. That's what's going to create flow so that you can be the person who's like, yeah, it's kind of hard right now. It's uncomfortable. And sometimes I want to quit. And I'm here. I'm really in touch with all of me. And that will give you a sense that like, yeah, it's going to be okay. Like I'm still here, right? It's when the emotions pile up and they go unacknowledged, and you don't give your attention to them, that's when you reach a point where you're like, I can't take it anymore. I'm done, right? And then you call the game off. But if you can kind of stay on top of those waves and surf them, yeah, it gets messy at times, but that's really the only way to kind of like stay connected to who you really are.
Yeah, that makes sense. That makes a lot of sense. I think that's great advice for dealing with these crazy times that we live in. But speaking of which, how's COVID affected your day today?
I am naturally very introverted, and
Mm-hmm.
I have a lot of hermit tendencies uh, already. So, like, not that much. I mean, I was playing a good amount of live poker
Okay.
before this all went down, and so like in this time I've transitioned fully to just like
Mm-hmm.
a complete business of
Yeah.
coaching. Whereas at the beginning of it, it was like kind of like beginning, or
Mm-hmm.
like side hustle type deal,
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
and now it's just like 100%. And so I actually like have many interactions with people, but they're all on Zoom.
Mm-hmm.
Um, my my day to day with COVID is it's like yeah, I don't go out very much, and when I do, I'm a lot more careful about like what I'm up to, who I,
Yeah.
keeping distance
Mm-hmm.
and stuff like that. But as far as like a day to day basis, it's honestly gotten slightly better, I would say, because I've gotten to like go fully into this work that I've been wanting to do this full time for many years, and I just like never really like allowed myself to invest fully in it,
Mm-hmm.
and so like in a way it's gotten better. um
That's cool.
yeah.
I'm glad to hear it. Was there a did you put yourself through that commitment exercise before you started out doing this full time?
I've I've been playing with commitments, for like the many years now.
Okay.
And what happens is that like they kind of like change over time, right? And so like yeah, when I find that I'm lacking motivation or I'm not taking action, I do take a look. It's actually one of the things on my list, because one of the things as a coach in this type of work is that like if I come across like a wave of coaching calls with people, and they all like start to converge around one central theme, it's a
Yeah.
sign that like I need to look at that in me too, right? So if I have like five guys in a row and they're like needing to feel the feelings, that means like I probably haven't fully felt my feelings around
Right.
something. If I hit a wave of commitment issues, I need to look at a couple of my commitments. And so I actually did hit a wave recently of
Mm-hmm.
people who are like needing commitment statement work, and so that's like on my list. It's like yeah, I want to play some more with refining some of my commitments, and so it's a thing that like it's good to like check up on. So you can have more than one, you can have a lot of them. I have many around health, wellness, relationships, career, money. It's just like everything that feels important. You can create commitments around to kind of like line you up to where you want to go.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, as you grow and you get older and you experience different things, certain commitments become more important, certain become less, and you kind of tweak them. So yeah, I'm always kind of like aware of like what am I committed to, where do I want to be headed, and um, that is very good for me.
Cool. All right. Well, that sounds good. That I think is really great advice for everybody. So I think we've kind of come to pretty much the end of our 90 minutes. I don't think we have any more questions, so I think we can wrap it up there. But thank you, Jason, very much for not only for being here and talking to our viewers, but also giving a great session for me and offering to help out in that way. I definitely really appreciate it. It was really valuable for sure. I'm sure you and I will talk again soon. So
Yeah.
I don't think we have too many goodbyes to say, but the chat I think would love to have you back at some point as well down the line.
Yeah,
So fingers crossed we'll get the opportunity to do that. I'll reach out to you if the need arises. But
absolutely, man.
we would love to have you back. But in the meantime, best of luck with everything in your own new direction. I'm going to
Mhm.
continue with my new direction, and hopefully we both enjoy the successes that we want.
Yeah, all the best to you, man. Thanks so much for the invite, and yeah, it's a good time. So yeah, I'll talk to you soon.
All right, take care, man.
All right,
Bye bye.
see ya.
All right, guys. Thank you everybody for being here. I really appreciate it. So you're gonna see right now. I probably look really weird on stream. I'm gonna like duck my head down so I can fit inside this bar that's on the screen. But yeah, the reason for this is the software that I'm using, Streamlabs, is very finicky with Zoom. It doesn't like Zoom very much. So I'm gonna have to actually hop off stream for a minute and then come back on, because otherwise I'm going to have some webcam issues. Andrew Grimmerson, thank you. Thank you for the follow, first of all, and I'm glad you enjoyed that. Thank you. I appreciate it. Good to have you on board with us as part of the community. Welcome. So what we're going to do, guys, is I'm going to hop off stream for like 2 minutes, or less than 2 minutes, and come back on just after I close down Streamlabs and open it up again. And then we're going to hang out and play some games. I'm going to give you guys the chance to give some input on what you'd like to play. I have some thoughts, but we'll see what you guys think. So stick with me. I will be back in literally